Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and joining us here today. My name is Mark and I'm here at the big event in Birmingham's iconic NEC Arena, where I'm going to be joined by Graham Lloyd of Motability Operations. Now, we're here in the wheelchair and accessible vehicle display area, where Graham's going to tell us all a little bit about some of the WAVs that we have on display here this weekend. Then we're going to look at two in particular and go into a little bit more detail about WAVs and what they can offer. Graham, thank you so much.
Hi Mark, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
So I'm super excited to get stuck into this. I've learned a little bit about this over the weekend, but for our viewers at home, who maybe don't know much about WAVs, can you give them a little bit of an intro about some of the vehicles that we have on display here this weekend?
Of course, yeah. We work with a total of 12 converter partners. So these are UK-based firms that convert vehicles for wheelchair accessible status. And here today, I think we have just shy of 60 different WAVs on display across all of the converters, ranging from passenger WAVs where you sit in the back in your wheelchair, through to ones that you can drive sat in your wheelchair as well, transfer internally in a vehicle from your chair to the driver's seat. Even ones where you can travel up front as a passenger in your wheelchair as well. So there are a huge amount of vehicles on display. I don't think I've got round to see them all as here.
Lots of options for lots of different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now we're going to look at two in particular. Can we talk about those and then take a look?
Yeah, do you know what, it's difficult because we had to choose two to talk about. And by doing that, we don't want to make it look like we've got favourites because we've got lots of great converter partners here today. All of the WAVs on here, I should say, on display today, they're all great. In fact, they're better than great. They're absolutely fantastic. But we've chosen these two simply because they show something slightly different.
Okay.
So this first one that we've come to look at is the Peugeot e-Rifter from Allied Mobility. Now, this vehicle is one of the few electric wheelchair accessible vehicles that we have on the scheme. We've got about 4 or 5 different models. Okay. The really exciting thing about this one, as well as the fact it's fantastically converted, is that the advance payment on this matches the diesel or petrol version.
Okay.
So I think for the first time ever, you've got true choice between either internal combustion or an electric vehicle at the same advance payment.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, I'm not very clued up on the tech and what goes on behind the scenes here. I know a little bit about converting petrol or diesel vehicles, but not so much about WAVs. So what's the difference?
I'm going to have to be careful not to get too boring here. So with a wheelchair accessible vehicle, one of the things that the converters do typically to allow as much headroom as possible for someone travelling in their wheelchair is to lower the floor. And you can see the original boot floor height here.
Yes.
Now, one of the difficulties with a battery electric vehicle is that typically the batteries for the vehicle were housed underneath the floor at the back, and that is exactly where the converters put their lowered floor section. So it gives them a real puzzle to try and get around. Now, Allied have managed to work with the batteries on the vehicle, still put a lowered floor section in there and create enough room for a wheelchair user in there. There are some slight compromises here and there, and we're going to see that with this first generation of electric wheelchair accessible vehicles. Not huge amounts, maybe slightly less headroom that you'd find in the petrol or diesel version, but to all intents and purposes, it's the same way of designing things. You lower the floor, create the space for the wheelchair user, and they've managed to do that with this fully electric vehicle.
Are there any other challenges when converting an EV?
Apart from that, realistically, it's the physical challenge there. The converters are very much on board. They know this is coming. They're gearing up for it. And this is the kind of first few vehicles that they're going to make on there. So with every new vehicle that comes out, this one or any of the others here on display, we're constantly learning. But it's that physical restriction really with where the battery packs are that makes it complicated.
Got you. Now, if a customer is considering getting an EWAV, what kind of things should they bear in mind and look into before they commit?
Yeah, do you know what, that's a good point, because for a lot of people, I think they like the idea in theory, but they're perhaps a little bit worried. The first thing to say, any of the wheelchair accessible converters that we work with, they'll bring the vehicle to you for a home demonstration. And that's really important. So it gives them the chance to try the vehicle out in their local area, think about parking it at home, places they'd use it. But realistically, the first thing they need to think about is the mileage restriction going to cause them any problems? Now, we know from speaking to our customers that generally speaking, a lot of our wheelchair accessible vehicle customers don't cover massive mileage. So this vehicle, as an example, real world use, you probably get about 120 miles between charges. Now, for a lot of people, that's plenty, but there's always going to be exceptions, customers that have places to go for hospital appointments and things like that. So really just think about whether the range is going to cause you any problems and how you are going to charge the vehicle. So for some people, if they've got a driveway at home, that's perfect. If you haven't got a driver at home, there's still some options. We can help you out with different ideas, and our team back at Motability are really fantastic with advising customers of those different options.
Gotcha.
Generally speaking, mileage and whether or not electric is right for you in this moment.
Okay. Now, if a customer does want to go down the EWAV route, do they still get the free home charger?
It's incredible you asked that, because I just noticed I'm blocking this sign here. So they do, indeed, yeah. So the home charger is included within the lease cost. So if you were to choose this vehicle on the Motability scheme today, provided there aren't any restrictions with where you live, it would come with a home charger fully installed, so you could charge at home.
Great stuff. Well, should we go and take a look at the other one?
Absolutely, it's
I'll
a
follow
short
you, sir.
stroll across here. So,
This one looks slightly different. What's this one called?
this is called the Dacia Jogger, and this is
Okay.
from our converter partner called Cyrus Automotive.
Yep.
Now, the reason I chose this one, not that all the others aren't absolutely brilliant on display, the reason I chose this one, Cyrus have gone slightly different here. Now, with most wheelchair accessible vehicles, converters choose the kind of squarest back they can possibly get on the vehicle to allow the wheelchair user headroom to go in. That does mean that, especially with more modern cars that are kind of aerodynamic and have a sloped roof line, it makes it difficult to find a way to get enough space for a wheelchair user. Cyrus have really tried to think outside the box, and they've used a car, which is the Dacia Jogger, and converted it for wheelchair accessible use.
Will it be suitable for all wheelchair users?
It won't, and this is one of the things, right? If you are a wheelchair accessible vehicle converter, you want to create the biggest space possible to basically accommodate every type of customer that you can possibly see. This one, because it's smaller in stature, it's not going to suit everybody,
Right.
but that said, there's a huge amount of space in here. So this is where the beauty of home demonstrations come in. You can ring Cyrus, you can have a chat with them, they'll take basic measurements from you. If the vehicle sounds like it's going to work, they'll bring it out for you to try at your home as well. There are some restrictions if you look at something in terms of a larger wheelchair accessible vehicle with headroom, but you can see how much they've actually taken out. This is
Yeah.
the original boot floor height,
Yeah,
so
it's
you
a
can see
lot.
how much they've lowered the floor there.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you if anyone wanted to get a demonstration, if this caught their eye and they fancied it, how would they do it? But you've answered that.
Sorry, I've already...
No, it's not a whole demonstration. So what are the unique features in this conversion that you may not see in another kind of conversion?
I think the overall kind of footprint of the vehicle, you've got something that really is a car. It looks like a car from the outside. When it's closed up, you'd be really hard pressed to tell that this has been converted in any way. Inside, you've got really flexible seating as well, with a wheelchair user in place. Depending on the size of their chair, if they've got a small paediatric chair or a small in stature, you might be able to have all of the seats down there all at once.
Okay.
So you've got a seating for 3 in the back. If not, if it's a slightly larger wheelchair, the front kind of double seat there tips forward, but you've still got the original seat there left for one person in the rear. So it's really flexible, but in a very small package.
Now, am I right in thinking that this is available as a hybrid as well?
So the Dacia Jogger is available as a hybrid, but as we discussed back on the vehicle we just looked at, the problem there is, in order to get this much space that Cyrus have got in the vehicle, they've really had to cut the floor down low. So the hybrid version isn't something that they convert at the moment because of the battery placement in there.
Got you. Well, Graham, thank you so much for your time. That's been super interesting. I've learned a lot. I hope that our viewers at home have learned a lot. And please stay with us, because at 3:30, we're going to be back in the studio where myself and Helen will be closing up all of the live streaming for the day.